So today we're going to be making some Brussels sprouts. Now I don't know if you guys are familiar with Brussels sprouts, but they are like little tiny cabbage greens. So instead of using cabbage greens, about 5 years ago I discovered that I really liked Brussels sprouts. So now I use these all the time. And just in case you don't have a go-to recipe, this will be a good one for you because it's really simple and it's tasty. What I do is I add a little bit of bacon and some shallots, and I pan fry them for a little bit, and then I transfer them over to the oven and I broil them to give them a really pretty caramelized texture. At this point, I already cleaned off the Brussels sprouts. All you have to do is take them out of the packaging, and there's usually a small end right here, and I cut that off already. But I left a couple of these uncut so that you can see what I'm talking about. So all I'm gonna do is cut these in half, okay? And again, once you start cutting them, some of the leaves and stuff will fall off, and that's completely fine. But once you get them, there's going to be a little, what I call a butt, a little bitty butt on here. You just cut that butt off, clean off your Brussels sprouts, and then you cut them in half. And it's cool if some of the leaves fall off. Now what I do is if a lot of the leaves fall off, I just throw those away. But a couple of them that are still kind of attached to the Brussels sprouts, once I clean them off, for the last time I leave those on. So now let's head over to the stove. Okay, so I have my cut up Brussels sprouts, and I've already taken the liberty of browning my bacon. And I also sweated out my shallots a little bit, and you guys remember what shallots are, right? They're just these little tiny onions, okay? So I've already sweated those out. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna place the Brussels sprouts with the cut end to the bottom of the hot skillet. So I'm just gonna take my time and just position these in here. We're going to leave these in the skillet until they start to turn nice and brown on the bottom. And sometimes I get tired of making cabbage. I want something a little bit different. And Brussels sprouts, they are a real nice accompaniment if you're making fish, chicken, if you're making anything. Because if I make cabbage, usually I want cornbread, but this keeps me from making cornbread, and then it's just extra calories for us ladies that we really don't need. Come in so you can see what they look like going to the skillet. So there's my oven. I put the oven on 400 degrees. Put all of my Brussels sprouts in here. So it just depends on how many Brussels sprouts you're going to cook to determine how much bacon you need and how many shallots you need. All I cut up was about 1.5 shallots. Okay. So now I'm gonna take my bacon. I'm gonna go ahead and put it on top of my Brussels sprouts because the bacon is already cooked. You do not want, put it to my face, look. You do not want to put uncooked bacon in the Brussels sprouts, okay? Make sure that you brown your bacon first, okay? Then we're gonna put in some of these shallots. And this smells so delicious. This is a really nice grown-up dish. I know many of my viewers are Southern, only because that's where most of my friends are down south. And we all grew up eating cabbage with cornbread. But at least if you make this, then you'll feel better about just serving it with some chicken or fish, some scallops. Now what I'm also going to do is I'm going to put some cracked pepper. This is going to be delicious. Now we all know what Brussels sprouts and cabbage smells like when you're cooking it. It doesn't smell like the best, but it makes for a delicious side dish. Then I'm going to put some of this pink Himalayan sea salt in here. The bacon drippings was already in the skillet from when I browned it. And now we're going to put a little bit of sugar. So the sugar is going to help. Once the sugar starts to melt, the sugar is going to caramelize, and then it's going to give the Brussels sprouts a really pretty shiny color. So come on over so they can see about how much. It's not going to make it sweet. It's just enough to dash on top. So when that sugar starts to melt, that's going to be gorgeous. And these are going to be delicious. Now let's take these babies over to the oven, and we're going to put them in for about 15 minutes on 400 degrees. So here you have it, Brussels sprouts with a little bit of Applewood bacon, some shallots, butter, a little bit of Himalayan sea salt, and cracked pepper. Delicious. Bon appetit.